So welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be planting my squashes, courgettes, pumpkins and cucumbers, and I'm going to show you the method that I use that's really successful. If you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill my pots up. Now I start my seeds off in a propagator, a heated propagator, because I find it very effective. If you haven't got that, then obviously just a warm place. It's obviously too cold to have them outside. So the first thing I need to do is just to fill the pots up to the top with compost, and you fill them right up to the top and pat them down. So I quite like these square pots because they fit quite neatly into the propagator. So the compost mix that I use is a mix of core and multi-purpose. And if you're not sure how you do that, then I've got a video that you can watch to show you how to do that, but I'm not going to go over this again now. So basically fill all the pots up first, and then I'll start putting the seeds in, and I'll show you how you do that. The method to sowing seeds, like squashes, pumpkins and cucumbers, is different to what you would, how you would sow smaller, finer seeds. So it is a slightly different method. So that's why I'm doing it separately. So I love this time of year. I completely love starting to get things like this plant, sown. Means things are really starting to warm up. I never do these too early because these plants can get really quite big, and it's quite hard to store them unless you've got lots and lots of space to store them, because they really can get quite big quite quickly. So I always do them about this time of the year because I know it won't be too long, and I'll be able to get them out into the allotment. So there we go, quite an easy job. Just scoop it in with your hands and pat it down nicely like that. So nothing too difficult there. So one of the nice things about growing your own squashes and courgettes and things like that is that you can do lots of different varieties. So things like that sometimes are a lot easier to get hold of now in the shops actually to buy, but it can be quite expensive and quite fun around Halloween time to have lots of different squashes and pumpkins as a display. And obviously we don't waste anything that we grow, we eat it as well, so it doubles up as decoration, and also we can eat it as well. And if you store squashes right, they will last all throughout the winter and into the early spring. So when you've run out of a lot of vegetables, squashes, if you've stored them correctly, will still be providing food for your family, and you don't have to preserve it, provided you let them ripen properly and you cure them properly, which later in the year I'll show you how to do. It's something that can really last you a long time, and you can make some quite interesting things out of it. And all the different types of squashes do have different flavours, so it is definitely worth looking at. You've got spaghetti squash, which is exactly what it says. It is, it's in little fine strands. I've been trying a potato squash this year. I've got a sunshine variety, and there's all different types, and the textures are all slightly different and slightly different flavours. So you think, oh, one squash is very much like another. Well, in my opinion, it's most definitely not, and it can make really quite interesting meals. When other stuff throughout the end of the year starts to peter off a little bit. So there we are, there's some of my pots done. I'll have to mix up some more compost in a minute, but that'll do me for now. So there we go, all my pots are full up. So the first thing I'm going to start sowing are some of my courgettes, and I've got a variety of different types of courgette here. So again, another nice thing where you can grow different varieties. Let me just take all the packets out, make sure I don't mix them up. So I've filled the pots up. I'm growing a variety of different types of squashes today, and also courgettes. I'm going to go through the types I'm growing, and then I'm going to show you how I sow them. So I've got various varieties of butternut. I've got butternut squash here, I think we all know what that looks like. I've got dumpling. Now this is one of my favourites. You can get various different colours of these, but I find they store incredibly well. So that's one of my favourites. Another one I've started off today is Sunshine, which is this lovely vibrant orange one. So it says it's a squash. It looks quite like a pumpkin actually, but it is technically a squash. So that's another really lovely one. So what else have I got? Oh, pumpkin. I've got a pumpkin. This isn't a traditional type you get in the supermarket. This one's actually got much better flavour. This one, really, really lovely, very heavy and very dense. So the other ones I've got here are a cucumber Formula 1 baby, which is the only cucumber I've started off today, which is that one there. It's a little lunchbox size cucumbers. I've never done that one before, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what that one's like. So the other one I've got here, oh, I've got some more. I've often done 2 pots of most things. So I've got mashed potato one, which I've never done before, but I saw it and I saw a chef using it quite recently. So I thought that would be a lovely one to try. It's going to be quite different to what I normally have. So what else have we got? We've got all the different types of courgettes here. So these multi-pack varieties are really, really good because you get a mixture. So you've got really lovely ones like Black Beauty, Golden Zucchini, Lebanese, you've got Yellow Scallop, Green Patty Pan, and also these little round courgettes here. They're called Denise a la Fruit Round, which are really, really lovely. So I really recommend those. So now moving on to how you sow seeds when you're doing things like courgettes and squashes and what have you. This is another lovely one if you've not tried it before, and that's spaghetti squash. You can see that you actually get, when you bake it, you actually get little strands of spaghetti, and that's really quite lovely. So you can do all the normal things with it, but one of the nice things is to actually eat it like spaghetti. So if I just get a few seeds out of the packet. This is one that we've grown for a few years. It's a little bit more watery than some of the other ones, but it is quite lovely for a change rather than having all the same ones. Now the way I sow these kinds of seeds, unlike small seeds like tomatoes and beetroot, where you sow them quite close to the surface, you actually need to go down a lot further with these. Now, as a general rule of thumb, the seed is about that big, so it needs to be that depth down. So that's underneath the soil, included another seed sides on top of that, if that makes sense. So as if there was another seed on top of that, that's about the depth it needs to go down. Now the most effective way I've found of doing that is to actually use a tool like this, or you could just use a butter knife, the end of a butter knife, and you just push it down into the soil. Now I normally put about 3 or 4 to a pot, all depending how big my pot is. You know, even if they germinate, you can easily pull them apart and then you've got more plants. But if you do 1 seed, 1 pot, and it doesn't germinate, that's a little bit of a pain, and you will often find that the odd ones won't. And then you just drop them in. Now I don't know whether they're supposed to go a certain way or not. I've only ever just dropped them in. If I'm going to be honest, I probably drop them in with the pointed bit facing up, but really there's no art to it. I just generally drop them in, and then obviously very gently backfill, and I either push it down with the tool or sometimes I use the pot. Now you don't push it down hard, but just ever so gently, just to flatten that off, you know, or push it down a little bit with the tool, whatever you think is appropriate. So let's put these back. Now one of the other really important things you must do is you really must label things like this. It's virtually impossible, I guess, unless you're an expert, and I don't know if there's any experts out there that can tell the difference between all the different types of courgettes and all the different types of squashes. If you don't label them up, then you'll absolutely have no idea which is which. Now I like to have a variety of different things, so I like to know what I've put in, and any spares that I've got I'll give away to other people. So you just have to put a label on it, and I'll just put spag squash because I can't fit all the words in, and I will just pop that in there and it will go in my propagator like so. There we go. So that's all my squashes and courgettes. I will probably sow a few more, but basically I do as many as I can fit into the propagator. As soon as they start to shoot, so don't let them shoot too much, but as soon as you see them poking through in that propagator, you take them out, otherwise they'll shoot too much. They only need to just literally poke through, and sometimes it's just a little bit of the stem you can see poking. Once it's done that, that one comes out of the propagator and you put it somewhere else that's obviously frost free in the meantime. Now I do hope that my method of planting or sowing squashes, courgettes and cucumbers has been helpful. If you've sown anything recently or doing any specific different varieties, sounds like my chickens want to get into the action, then please do put it in the comments.